Now, I've done many videos on Sunak, and I've come to the same conclusion every single time. There is not one single justification for voting for the Tories in the next election. I don't care where you sit on the political spectrum, there just isn't. If you're a working person, he does not care about you. I've done videos where it was brought up in Parliament about a family living in a van, homeless, laughed it off, didn't care. They brought up the story of the Iceland worker whose mortgage had gone up to by £1,000, laughed it off, didn't give a shit. Now, if you're an NHS worker, if you work for the NHS, there is not one single person in the NHS that can legitimately vote for the Tories after the comments that he made on GBNews last night.
But look, we haven't made enough progress in spite of all those things I've told you about, which is a lot. The NHS is doing more than it's ever done before. We haven't made enough of a dent in the waiting list. Now, we've practically eliminated the number of people waiting the longest, 2 years, 1.5 years. But overall, the waiting list has largely risen over the past year. The good news is, though, we saw that it started to fall because we didn't have strikes for a period at the end of last year.
I'm at the point now where every single time this guy opens his mouth, I hate him even more. I didn't think it was possible, but I do. He wants to blame NHS workers for the failings of the NHS. The record high waiting times, the record low patient satisfaction, every single problem that we have with the NHS right now, he wants to blame it on NHS workers striking for better pay, better working conditions. Honestly, how does he get away with this? How is he not brought, well, it was on GBNews, wasn't it? So they're not holding him to account, but how is no one holding this guy to account with comments like that? Are you serious? NHS workers are the reason that the NHS is failing right now. Not 13 years of Tory government, not 13 years of austerity, not years of Jeremy Hunt being health secretary and slashing funding for cancer screening and God knows what else. Not the fact that privatisation is now up to about 20-30% of the NHS. The nursing bursaries that were taken away when we used to train British citizens for free to become nurses. The list is endless. You think it's the fault of the workers why the NHS is in such bad condition, and not even including austerity itself. Every single aspect of austerity contributes to the burden on the NHS. Council funding being slashed, funding for mental health being slashed, for care work in the community, for policing, for prisons, for homelessness. The amount of people that are sick, homeless, burdening the NHS, child poverty, cost of living crisis. The list is endless. The only reason the NHS is in such bad condition is 13 years of Tory austerity, stripping it to the bone and pushing that burden on the NHS. It's not workers wanting better pay and better condition. And ironically, the workers that are striking, the nurses and doctors are striking, they're striking to save the NHS. That's what they're striking for. Of course, they want better pay and better working conditions. But it's not selfish reasons. It's not just for themselves. It's the fact that they know, they're intelligent people, and they know that the NHS can't survive unless there are better working conditions and better pay to attract people into the job. Record numbers of people that are British citizens that have gone through medical training, have trained to become doctors and nurses, have decided, gone into the job and decided, you know what, it's not for me. The conditions are terrible, the hours are long, the pay is rubbish. So then what happens when our own British citizens turn away from nursing and becoming doctors? We rely on foreign workers. One thing that people in this country seem to hate, immigration going up. But then what happens with those? We get nurses from the Philippines and India, and they're fantastic nurses. You know, this is a topic I know a lot about. My wife is a nurse. But I've seen the cycle go on and on of Filipino nurses come over here. They work here for a year or two. They realise that they're sold a dream. You know, they're sold a dream of good wages, when back in the Philippines, they're getting about £500 a month. But over here, they're getting double, triple that. But then they come here and the realities kick in, don't they? The fact, the cost of living in this country, the rent, the bills, the cost to eat. And then they look at their friends that have gone to Germany, that have gone to Canada, that have gone to Australia, and they go themselves. I've seen this cycle over and over. Even family members of my wife that have come over to England to work as a nurse. They've come here for a year, maybe two, and then they've gone to Canada, they've gone to Australia, they've gone to Germany. So British nurses, British doctors that are striking are doing it to save the NHS. They know that this is not attainable. We can't keep up with this. When we just have an influx of recycled staff going in and out of the country, it's not attainable. And that is what they're striking for, as much as their own problems with staffing and hours and everything. That's what they're striking for, to save the NHS. And it just shocks me, and it frustrates me so much that no one is calling Sunak to account for these comments, that he wants to blame strikes. I hate this man. I hate him so much, and he has to go. And as always with these videos about Sunak, he doesn't just have to go. This whole Tory party needs to be taught a lesson. They need to be annihilated off the face of the earth. Not a single vote should be cast for these goddamn awful... I'll go on, but I'm just repeating myself. But guys, give me your comments down below. That last, like I say, with every comment this guy comes out with, I seem to hate him even more, and it just frustrates me. If you enjoyed the video, click a like. If you haven't subscribed, you can subscribe up top. Till next time, take care.